All right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. And right here, we are back on the air. It is an amazing night, and we actually have a legendary BMXer, actor, comedian, punk artist. This individual is honestly a jack of all trades, and we have the one and only Rick Thorne right here live on the radio, and of course, YouTube and Facebook as well. How are you doing this evening, Rick?
What up, dude? I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Wait, am
Hey,
I?
man,
Here,
you're
okay, I'm trying to figure out where to look. Am I looking at you now?
you're looking perfectly straight, yeah.
Okay, I gotta look. Cause the thing is, these phones, you always want to look at yourself, but they never really like looking into
Yeah.
the cameras here.
when I
I'm
when I
good,
first
bro.
transitioned when I first transitioned actually into video interviews, I was doing the same thing. A lot of people were like, "Dude, you weren't even looking at the guy." I'm like, "I was looking at him, man." But you have to look at the lens.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, you look all cross-eyed, like, what's going on? It's like, hey, I'm over here. No, I'm just kidding.
But I know
Yeah,
you're a
dude.
good.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
Hey, man, you're most certainly welcome, man. Like I was saying before we went live, man, I've been a huge fan for a long time. So just being able to speak with you this evening, honestly, is truly an honor. So thank you for just accepting my inquiry.
Yeah, dude, you're super nice. Thank you.
But Rick, I know you're a busy guy, man, so I'm not going to take you away too much of your evening. But I got to take you back to the beginning of your amazing career within extreme sports, man. I got to ask, what got you into BMXing in the first place, man? Because as everyone knows, you are literally one of the best to ever ride.
Well, look, dude, what got me into riding was there was a generation of guys before us, okay? That was like Brian Blyther, Mike Dominguez, Eddie Fiola, Rich Seeger. There was only like a handful of guys that actually did competitively in the early 80s to mid 80s. And that's primarily because a lot of I want to answer your question. I'm going to build up to it. That's
Oh,
primarily
definitely.
because a lot of the sport was based in California, in Southern California. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. So when we grew up, like, we didn't have skate parks. And at the time, there was only like a couple skate parks in the nation, and they happened to be in California. The big ones like Pipeline, Del Mar. I think who else? Colton had a skate park out here. There's a few out here, a handful, but they were all like in Southern California. They weren't in the Midwest, so we had to build our own ramps. So, anyways, to answer your question, what got me into it was I was into doing wheelies and into doing, like, we used to put the brick in the board. We used to do all that stuff, man. There's stuff people joke about. We did that. Doing wheelies, little dirt jumps and stuff, jumping curbs. And then I saw the skate park, and we were like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I was by myself. I rode by myself, and we rode with friends and stuff. But in the magazines, you could order these plans to build your own ramp, and that was like out of wood. And then, so yeah, man, that's it. Man, it's magazines, and it was really like the love for a ride. Like, what got me into bike riding, period. Like, we're not talking like goals with X Games and quarter pipes and tricks and wanting to be sponsored and all that shit. It had nothing to do with it. The reason why I started riding before that was it was the easiest way for me to get out of my house, to go hang out with my friends. And it's just something about riding down the street just made me feel alive. I can't describe it to this day. It's just something that I still do to this day. I still go ride on the street. I do this ride in Hollywood I've been doing for 25 years, 10-mile ride on my BMX. I do it 4 or 5 times a week. It's just so I keep that feeling alive inside of me, that youthful spirit. And that reminds me of why I ride. It was just that feeling of just being out. I felt free. I felt like I could go anywhere. You know what I mean? I was a kid. I was like 19 years old. You know what I mean? Like, I'm alive, And then just one thing led to another, man. And none of it was planned, None of it was planned. I just ran across a magazine at the 7-Eleven and then wanted to build a ramp, and then begged my mom, and me and my stepdad built this ramp. And I don't know, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I learned how to do quarter pipe airs in the backyard by myself. Like, it's just something that I just wanted to set. No one was telling me I needed to do it, or I felt like I had something to prove. I was just exploring, like, man, what else can I do on my bike at a young age? That's really all how all happened. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It was just like that will to, like, I tell people today, like, you find something you love to do it for as long as you possibly can, because there's no reason not to. And if you're lucky to find something that you love, that the quicker you find it, the more years you're going to get to do it. So, it was just one of those things where I just really got into bike riding, and even to this day, just the sense of feeling like I have an importance, and I feel like I'm alive, and that like I can feel good about myself, and that's my relationship to what bike riding means to me. And people on the outside, they'll say like, X Games and the sponsors and the Tony Hawk and all these stuff, the sponsors and all this. And don't get me wrong, that stuff's amazing. Like I'm not saying one or the other, but I'm saying the root of what got me into it was merely just because it made me feel like I had some purpose of some sort, and I really didn't know what, and it just happened to be riding down the street. It's weird, but that's how it happened.
And when you brought up a few moments ago about your very first ramp, how you actually got like the blueprint out of a magazine, do you actually remember what happened to your very first ramp? Like, I know it's been quite a few years now, but do you remember actually what happened to that very first ramp that you actually built with your dad?
Yeah, well, what happened? Like, you could buy these ramp plans from a magazine called BMX Action, and they sold ramp plans. And it's before they actually cut transitions out, like transitions, that's smooth, right? This would be your transition, your air, boom, right? This is it, right? It's kind of a hoopty transition, but you get what I'm trying to do. This was made out of 2x4s, so the transition went boom, boom, boom. It was like that's before we learned how to cut transitions out of, or somebody learned how to cut transitions out of plywood. What happened to that ramp? It was 6 foot tall. It was 8 feet wide. It didn't have a deck on it. And then, I didn't know much about ramps, and like I was a kid. And so like things would rot away, we didn't know that stuff sitting in the snow all year would create termites and rot, and you put a hole in it the next season. But I went to a show to see Bob Harrow, the legendary Bob Harrow, and his trick team do a show in Kansas City, and they had an 8 foot tall ramp. And so naturally I've always been wanting to push things. And this is me by myself at this point still. I was new to the neighborhood. I hadn't really made any friends yet. I was just riding my bike. And so then I asked if I could build an 8 foot one, because I felt like, by that time, people learned how to cut the transitions out of plywood and things were smoother. So I was just, I was absorbed in the sport and absorbed in like just following it. I was like, they have an 8 foot and they got a little bitty deck on top. That's what I want. And so then I just followed what they were doing. And that's, but so the first ramp, it just, I think it rotted, the bottom of it rotted probably, if I remember right. And then we salvaged what we could and built a bigger one. So it'd be nice to still have that ramp. That'd be sick.
And also as well, in your career, as we mentioned a few moments ago, how you did like X Games and many other legendary competitions throughout your illustrious career. But I actually read that you actually competed in the very first 8 X Games for 8 years straight. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that experience. And of course, what was one of your most fondest memories you shared during your X Games competitions? Because that's like the mecca of just extreme sports.
Like just when at that point in time, like the first X Games came out in 1995, and we kind of all had a feeling something was in the air. And I'll tell you why, because punk rock and hip hop, they hadn't really been like too mainstream yet. Like there was a little dabble with like the Clash and the Ramones, and a little bit of dabble with Run DMC, with Aerosmith, and the mainstream, right? And punk rock got real popular, hip hop got popular, and we were the next in line. And, at that point in time when I was riding in the first X Games, I'd been riding like probably, let me think here, 80 to 90 to 95. I've been riding like 15 years or so. Still didn't really have any sponsors. And if I did, they just gave me product. I mean, I rode for Hop on Bikes at that time, but he wasn't making any money. All I got was a frame and a couple t-shirts in the first like many years of being on that team. Because, the sport, like what had happened was the sport got really big in like 87. It went from like 85, 86, 87 was huge. And then 88 came around, and the sport, I always say it's kind of like a dark ages. So from like 88 to about 92 or 3, when Matt Hoffman started doing the bike contests within the industry, there was this new spark, you know what I mean? And people were making videos, and like there was this new energy about the sport. People were doing rider-owned companies, but there still wasn't much, as far as opportunity outside of the sport to like survive. I meaning like, you had to eat, and make a living at doing it. And so when the first X Games came around in 95, I knew right away, like, oh man, this is a great opportunity for our sport, because we had been grinding it in the industry for so long. And, the only people that were interested in it were the people that did it. You know what I mean? And so when that contest came around, dude, it was like a big deal to me, because I felt like my whole point or whole purpose of being on that show was to get people involved with riding like what I love to do. Yeah, it was a rush to be on TV. It was a trip. It was like dream come true. I was like, oh, I'm on TV riding my bike. But it was more than that too. At the same time, it was like that was a tool, like a way to get people to acknowledge the fact that what we do is serious. We're not a joke. We're not a menace to society. We're here to stay, and to help establishing the sport, like to solidify it into the mainstream of like, this is like something that's legit. We're not just like wild loose cannons doing stuff on our bikes. You know what I mean? We were like already organized, already structured. And so the industry was, the contests and stuff. So to go on about it, like, I don't know, I just felt like, to me, it was like a huge accomplishment to like all the years that I've been riding, and that like I was stoked to be invited to do that. But at the time too, they didn't even have 10 pro vert riders. I don't think people even know that. Like at the time, they invited 10 riders, and 2 of them were still amateur, just to fill 10 people. So that's how small the sport was. Not everybody was pro in that class at that time, but but then there was a lot of backlash from the industry. ESPN doesn't know what they're doing, which fair enough, they probably didn't. They were new to it, and they were trying to figure it out, and they were trying to, obviously it's a business to them, and they wanted to be successful, and we wanted to put what we did out legitimate, not like, these kooky ideas of what people think we are, right? And and I can go on and on. Just interrupt me if you want to interrupt me, because I'll keep going. But
oh man, honestly, I gotta say, it's just to be able, it's an honor just to be able to listen to you speak, man. So I'm pretty sure I can vouch for the viewers, man, that we're just enjoying these amazing stories.
okay, so check this out. So then like the sports, and so what had happened was, in 1995, after the X Games, MTV was real curious, like, oh, we want to do a contest, and we want to call it MTV Sports Music Festival, and they were incorporating more like what Warped Tour was doing. Warped Tour came out in 1995. So 1995 was the first year for Warped Tour, first year for the X Games. Green Day's big, Offspring's big. Do you know what I mean? Like hip hop's here to stay. These bands are popping up. You got LL Cool J, Run DMC. You know what I'm saying? Like there's this vibe, there's this thing in the air. And then we started doing these events with bands, because we'd always say, well, we're athletes, but we're also musicians, because we create our own brand. We create our own style, like a musician would, whatever it is that you do, or an artist of some sort. But it takes an athletic ability. So that's what was unique about what we were doing. It was different than, traditional stick and ball sports, because you don't really have a say in that type of stuff. Because they're team sports, and this is more, it's obviously an individual thing. So like, yeah, man, so it was cool. Like, and so here's the crazy thing. In 1995, that's when my whole life changed. X Games, and then Airwalk's like, hey, we want you to go to Australia next year with Tony Hawk for the Big Day Out tour. And I was like, what? And that was in January. And that's where I met Kevin Lyman. He was on tour with Foo Fighters. Kevin Lyman on Warped Tour. I said, could I do some of the Warped Tour? Then later on in that summer, 96, I did the Warped Tour. And then what had happened was MTV had saw the X Games in 95, went to their event in 96. The next thing I know, I'm hosting next to Ice-T on MTV, and it's MTV Sports and Music Festival. So then everything changed. My whole life changed. Everything was a game changer from that point, because I went from being like a big personality in the sports to like offer these opportunities to be on TV hosting, which I never thought that I would ever do. Of course, it crossed my mind, but I never thought, like, how am I ever going to get to do that? And then what happened from that was in 96, ESPN saw that and said, hey, we want you to do a show for us for ESPN called X Today. And I did that for 5 years. And that was really the icebreaker for ESPN starting to understand what action sports, quote, action sports, string sports, however you want to say, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or what our culture was about, what we were about. It wasn't about like, I'm going to go break every bone. That's not the goal here. And so with that show on ESPN, I was able to help direct them in a lot of ways and connect a lot of people with them. and keep some integrity in what we were doing and still be me like I am just now on camera. And that was really like cool because I didn't have to, you know, I stood my ground with that because I've always stood up for the sport and wanted to put it out there the best legitimate way. And at this point now, I've been close to riding 20 years or whatever it is. I'm so deep rooted that I was like, this is who we are. Just because we're on TV doesn't mean that you got to strip us of our identity just to put us on your TV. Let's work together and make it to where you guys understand who we are. We understand what you are, and we could come together and make it cool. And I played a big part of that with ESPN in the early days. And I don't think a lot of people know that. Because it was new, you know, and there was a lot of behind the scenes things that, you know, when I first started working for ESPN, they said, we want you to come up on inline skates with a blue denim ESPN shirt and a microphone. I said, look, man, I'm a bike rider. I wear all black and I want a law off mic. And I said,
Yeah.
all right. So I was already kind of like knowing how to work, like to keep present me like where I felt comfortable, and I didn't have to like, you know, not say the word sell out, but I didn't have to like change who I am to present something for people that at the time didn't know what it was. Right.
And especially
so
as well with ESPN, especially with ESPN, sorry for interrupting. I was just thinking as well that during the beginning, they probably had no idea what they were doing when it came to this sport. So they saw you, an individual that was doing it for 20 plus years. They're probably like, we need this guy to host his own show. That way we can learn some, excuse my language, learn some shit from him.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But I think it wasn't like, it was never planned. There was a really big personality at the time. They saw me do the MTV thing. And outside of MTV, all they ever had before, not all, but I'm just saying, they had Dan Cortez. I would say he would be the first like action sports host before me. And so like with that, I think they saw that and they wanted to have like, they knew that I knew a lot of people and that I could approach people and that I could interview people. And that's what they were looking for. And I had style and I had that look that they were looking for that people felt like Extreme was, which I was, because I've been in it for how many years? This is who and what I was and what it's about. And I just wanted to protect the sport, and I wanted to protect like all of it, all the sports, and just put it out there in a cool way to where people understood that it wasn't like, you know, because it wasn't about breaking bones only. You know how many times I heard that? Like, so how many bones you broken? It's like, I don't sit around and count my injuries, bro. Because I'm just going to count more. Like, I can't, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to like, I'm trying to pull this trick off, not like crash, you know what I mean? And so it was different back then, but it was cool because I was given the opportunity. And at the time, I didn't even really like think about it. I just did it, you know? I mean, I thought about what I was doing, but I didn't talk like I am now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they approached me because I was the first. I didn't know at the time. I was just being me and having fun and bringing life to the party like I always do. And they liked that. And so that was something so by doing that ESPN show, then I did a music show for them. And then I hosted early winter X Games, early summer X Games. I didn't host the actual program, but I did a lot of live TV for them because they were still trying to figure out like I remember at the winter X Games, they had this bar and they would have athletes come in and they would like be serving them stuff. And I forgot the guy's name. He's like an ESPN Fowler's his name, Chris Fowler. Sound familiar?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
He was like the main host, and Katie, whatever her name, she does the football stuff now. What's her last name? Anyway, it's gonna come to me. But they were not from this world. And so I remember being there on live TV, and then he would interview people, then he'd come to me. And I have all these VHS tapes. I saved them. It's funny. And we talk about this person and this sport and this attitude. And I was kind of like, in a weird way, representing everything, but I didn't really realize it. I was still coming from a BMX perspective, but I knew that like all the sports kind of take the same mentality, you know, like just because you skate doesn't mean that you don't have the same mentality as a biker, meaning that like, if I got to pull this shit right here, I got to pull it and do whatever it takes to do, you know what I mean? Even though we're on different instruments, we kind of have the same attitude of like that perseverance and that individualism and that style that we have to bring. And so, yeah, man, it changed though. It changed a lot for me. And then, you know, and then what happened is then I ended up doing radio for ESPN and ABC radio because Disney owns ESPN and ABC at the time. And so then I did that for 9 years. So I did a lot of work with them. And then that led to other TV shows, you know, NBC and then Spike and then Fox and down the line. So I had a pretty good run with it, man. It was crazy, like as far as the TV hosting and stuff. And so to answer your question in like long form, I never thought by doing the first X Games that it would turn into all those opportunities from like ESPN and MTV and the Warped Tour and all these things. And then I became like this person of the style, this voice for the sport. I never even thought that. I just thought like, this is cool. I'm finally going to show my mom that like I'm doing something with riding and I'm on TV. Like this shit's cool. And you know what? Here's a funny story. At the time, I was busting tables during the first X Games full time, which I did for like 7 years. And so, because I figured it was an easy job. If I got to leave, I could come back, you know, restaurant life, right? And they gave us these remote control cars. I remember everyone that competed in the X Games, we got a gift bag and we got these remote control cars. And I remember standing there, I go to somebody, I go, you're gonna use this car? They're like, no. I go, oh, no, I'm not gonna neither. I was like, I wonder how much it costs. And I shopped around and found out they paid like $80 for it back then at Target. So I returned my shit. Got $80. I didn't make any money at the first X Games, by the way. So I got $80, paid my utility bill. So I'm making it, bro. On my way. You know, so that was the first X Games. It was like, happy to be there. Oh my God, this is crazy. We're actually put on this important level all these years. People hated us and shit in high school and wanted to fight us, and cops chasing us, and they thought we were a nuisance, and people not understanding, or they just thinking we're a big problem to society. And now we're put on this thing of like, these guys are the shit. And we're like, what? To me, I got off on that too. I was like, haha, sucker.
And what's crazy, those people that are probably hating on you now are probably actually just seeing your career, seeing you on TV everywhere they go. If they're a sports fan, every time they turn on ESPN, they see Rick Thorne, and they're just sitting there like,
oh yeah, fuck. I got a whole nother story for you. What happened to me in the industry? Oh man, it was crazy. I went from like, and this is an old story, so keep that frame of mind. This is an old story. This is what's happening now. And I'm just gonna get into it. I got all this popularity from sports. I had a lot of sponsors. I already knew by working it that like if I host, I could sponsor. And then it doesn't really matter what place I get. Meaning that it matters to me, but like I'm promoting brands, and that's why people pay you, is because you're promoting them. You could be the guy that kills it in the skate park, but if you got no fan base or no awareness, no one's going to sponsor you. That's the business of it. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's how it works. Imagine if you had a company. Would you just want to give people stuff and get no product sales in return? They're trying to move product. You know what I mean? I'm just being real. That's what it's about. And you know, that's not what everything's about with action sports, but that's being sponsored's about. You have to represent. So I knew like I'd get sponsors, but then I was able to like say to ESPN, well, I want to wear this. I want to wear this. I want to wear my Monster. Just get Monster. And by the way, I was the first Monster athlete, by the way, ever signed, believe it or not. It's a true story. It's a whole nother story. But yeah, dude. So I got all this popularity, man. And then like I did cribs, and I was in Tony Hawk's video game, Matt Hoffman's video game, all this crazy, amazing stuff that like, and also in 1996, let me back up. They picked 8 bikers, 8 skaters, and 8 inline skaters to represent their sport in a choreographed show in the Olympics at the 1996 closing ceremonies in Atlanta. And I was one of those riders. So then think back to 96, Warped Tour, X Games, MTV, Olympics. The year before, busting tables, doing shows at a state fair for God knows how many years I did that, 10, 12 years, next to the pig races, making $75 a day. You feel me? And then all this shit comes in and you're like, what? You say, I ain't going back. I've been busting tables for 7 years. I got these opportunities. I'm not going back. And so I just charged it forward and learned the game by giving the opportunities. Learned how to manage myself, learned how to talk, learned how to all of it. And so like, you know, I got all this popularity in the sport, and then, you know, it wasn't a one-off. I've been doing this, you know, from 96 up to like, or 95 when it came in, but 96 to like 2007 or 8. The industry started to get really, really, really jealous of me, because I think that they thought like it was all about what trick you pull, then you get all the riches. Like I could pull this trick, I deserve everything. Well, maybe if you're in a contest and you're competing for money in a placing, but in everyday life, no way, dude. There's way more to this. And so I think people started to look at it like, wow, Rick does this trick, and I was still killing it. But he does this and this, and he's a sellout. He does TV and he does this, he does movies, this. And so then this, I did all these ads, okay? Because I got kind of mad. And people talking shit on me. And they were friends of mine. So I did these ads for this company called Free Agent. And I took everyone's criticism and put it in the ads. But then the industry didn't even read it that way. And they came at me harder. And it got to the point where then I lost my bike sponsor. I lost my shoe sponsor. I lost almost all of my sponsors, except for Monster and a couple others at the time. And the industries took a dip. Everybody turned their back on me. People did print ads making fun of me. This is all true story. And I don't want anything for it. This is a positive story. Keep it in mind. And this is an old story. Yeah. And the time my wife was leaving and I was with 2 kids, I couldn't afford my house. I worked my whole life for all this, blah, 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 and had to let it all go and start over and move back in a little apartment, barely getting by, raising 2 kids on my own, no family in California, had my kids the majority of the time, had to quit touring, real talk, had to man up. Even though I'd already been manning up my whole life, I was like, I take care of my kids. And I grinded and I grinded and I grinded. And this is what sparked this when you said, I bet these guys looking at you hate you, or, oh, you got this shit going on. And I think a lot of people at the time thought they got the last laugh. But the reality was I worked on myself and I went out every day and rode. And I got a GoPro and I started shooting photos of myself, setting goals like I was used to, like I'm used to doing that. And rebuilt myself and rebuilt my life, rebuilt my career and got into other things and kept going. And nowadays, those same old school guys, a lot of them come up to me and say, dude, props to you. You never gave in to who you are. Props to you. You're still riding. Because the reality is I'm still riding. And I'm not saying I go out every weekend and do a tabletop. I'm riding every damn day and I'm setting goals. So like who's got the last laugh now? You guys people got mad at me out of their own jealousy. And what I learned from it was this, bro. If you want something in life, go get it. Putting down other people ain't gonna do nothing. A lot of those people ruined my life at that time. They ruined my life with my sponsors, a family I had to raise, things that I lost, and people that I worked hard for. People don't realize I made more money off of TV and films than I have in bike riding. That's real talk. So, you know, that's damaging. And the jealousy of people is damaging. And I never, ever did anything that I felt like was, and I'm not a victim, but I felt like I was trying to be better than someone. I'm from nothing. My mom worked in a factory. I'm from Kansas City. I lived in my mom's basement. I bust tables. Like, I'm self-made. And I think the biggest thing about that story, because I like to tell it, but the biggest thing that really hurt me was the people in the industry that were friends of mine. And those were the people in charge of talking shit, in charge of doing ads. These companies, just, I was the target because I was different. And instead of like embracing it and being like, I'm doing something right, they're talking about me. I had so much more going on in my life personally that it almost wrecked me. And I don't drink. I mean, very rarely drink. I don't do any drugs, never done drugs. And I just faced it, bro, and kept pedaling and kept going. And these are the reasons why I wake up every day and go ride. The reasons why I go ride on the street is because it's for me. It's always been for me. You know, riding's always been for me. I'm not doing it for you. I mean, yeah, I have brands I ride for. Of course I work for them. Of course I represent them. Absolutely. And I'm grateful for that. And I also go after that. That's what people don't understand. If you want something in life, go after it. Don't go after it. If somebody has something you want and you get mad, right? And you're criticizing their success, you're already saying you don't see success for yourself. And when I look back on it, I can't believe all those people that I don't know really get under my skin. I really it bothers me. But I will say this, it all goes by so fast. Because when you say 95 X Games, that seems like the other day to me, bro. You know? So. And
now it's like 2023. It's like, where the hell did time go, man?
It did. And I didn't mean to take that all deep and dark, but I just want people to know that, like, you gotta, like, I guess what I'm trying to get through or just to say is, like, that's the past. These things happen. You weather storms, you get tough, you make it happen. I get it. But don't ever give up on things you love to do, because if I would have gave up on riding because of what someone thought of me a long time ago, I feel like a chump to myself. Like, why do you care what that person thinks? You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing something positive for yourself, like if you're doing things to hurt yourself and other people, that's a whole other story. I'm talking about if you're doing things for yourself, things that embrace you, your goals, your dreams, don't stop doing them for anybody. Don't. And I'm glad I didn't. That's for sure. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to stop, but man, those were tough years. That was like from 2000, maybe about 10, maybe 2010 to like, 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It's been rough. It's been a rough climb back, but it's
And
been
just
cool.
going, I was gonna say, just going back to the X Games for a moment. I do know that in X Games '99, you actually got to obviously, compete, but also had the opportunity to witness firsthand, in person, Tony Hawk actually landing that like infamous 900 for the first time. Man, I saw it on TV, but you had the opportunity to be there and see it in the flesh. I was wondering if you could actually tell us a bit more about that eventful day, and of course, what was it like just actually seeing that monumental, like, extreme sports moment, man? Because that was when people think X Games, they think Tony Hawk's 900.
Well, yeah, because everybody, that was like the dream trick for a lot of skaters, I think, is, the same in the bike world. Excuse me, in the bike world, we've been doing 540s for a long time. And then people want to do 900s, and there was a couple people that had done 900s already in BMX. So naturally, sports, ride together or skate together. And, but to watch Tony do his 900 was amazing because perfect example of like someone, not giving up, pushing through time and time again, setting goals. And that's what riding, and I would think skating as well, teaches you in life. Like all the stuff I just told you, it teaches you in life that like you fall down, you get up, fall down, you get up, keep going, keep going, keep going, fall down, get up. You ride, get down, get up, get up. You know what I mean? And so to watch him pull a 900, we didn't know it was going to turn out the way it was. We didn't know he was going to have a video game after that and have several video games after that. And that he would become this iconic action sports figure. I don't think that he even knew that. It's just these things happen so organically. But I think with Tony, it was not even about that. It was just about pulling that trick because I know Tony really well. And he's the most gifted skater that I've ever met and one of the nicest guys to this day. I met Tony in 1992. We did shows together for the first time in 92 in Detroit. It was me, Tony Hawk, Matt Hoffman, Dennis McCoy, Detroit State Fair. And Joan Jett was playing on a stage over here, bro. And then this tornado came in and ripped her stage off. It was wild. But Tony's been the same dude, he's been the same guy that I met, 30 years ago. Despite all the fame and the fortune and the attention and stuff, it's still about skating, dude, for him. That's just what I know of him. It's still about like waking up and the priority is to find that high skating, to pull that trick. It's a blessing that if you find that in something, you're able to do that many years and still excel at it. So, but it couldn't happen to a cooler dude, to be honest with you, because Tony's cool, man. Tony's a great guy. Does a lot for a lot of people. He always has. And, I was happy for him. I wasn't as close to him as I am now. Because actually, no, I take that back. We were pretty close. That was 99. And then we went on tour, the Whoop-Ass tour, right after that in 99 going into 2000. So we went on tour right after that. And I've seen Tony pull 900s in demos. Like after that, we did a show one time for all the Walmart employees, which is crazy because the whole town, I forgot where it's at, man, but it's all, the whole town's like Walmart, bro. And he pulled a 900 there. It was sick. So, I mean, but at the same time, I'd been lucky enough to be on the same team as Matt Hoffman, which was Hoffman Bikes. And he was the first to do a 900 on, BMX. Well, Mike Dominguez, I think did it first. That's, and then Hoffman pretty much mastered it, or Matt was the first. I don't know the debate between that. Some people say Mike, some people say Matt. Either way, they're both rad dudes. But I would see Matt do 900s and demos with like 10 people there, dude. Crazy. Or try them. Crazy. Like crazy. Like shit, I would say for a contest. Like doing like in front of like hardly anybody. But to answer your question with Tony, it was awesome, man. It's always awesome to see somebody pull something they like, especially if it's a friend of yours. And, being a bike rider and stuff, I see people pull stuff and it's just like, I get you're like stoked for them. You know, Matt Hoffman did a no-handed 900 a couple years later at the Philadelphia X Games, and I was sitting on the deck for that. It was the same feeling, like, dude, that was insane. Like, what? But yeah, it was a good time. It was like I said, blessed that I was born in this time to be there and to witness all that, because it changed a lot of things. Tony's changed a lot of things, that's for sure. Yeah.
And speaking of Matt Hoffman and Tony Hawk and whatnot, I do know as well that you had the opportunity to portray yourself in Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, and of course Matt Hoffman's, I believe it was Pro BMX 2, both for like the original Xbox and PlayStation 2 back in the day. What was it like actually seeing yourself actually in these video games? Like, because obviously it's like a virtual character of yours, man. But like, what all went into it to actually make that possible? They put the little balls on you, and you actually had to go ride, or did they just kind of have other people do the writing for you for those video games?
Well, the first game I was in was Matt Hoffman 1. And then the next year we did Matt Hoffman 2. And then I did voiceovers for Tony Hawk 4. And then American Wasteland, Tony asked me to be a character, the only bike rider in that game. So when we did all of that stuff, like say the first game when it was new, they only did the balls and stuff on the main guys. That would have been Matt and Tony. Well, they did we weren't together when Tony filmed all his stuff. I wasn't there. I don't know how they did it, but I know I think they just did that on Tony. They just did that on Matt. By the time the second game came around, they were able to take our style and some of the tricks that we have off of video footage. So we submitted video footage, and then we actually did a tour for there's a video we did for Matt Hoffman 2 to promote the game. That they took a lot of images off of our style riding off from that. That was the point of the tour. Do the tour, get all this content, and then we could take the content and then apply their style into their character without us having to do those balls and stuff. And then when I did American Wasteland, the technology was so good that like I did all the voiceovers for that game too. So I just went in the studio and did the voiceovers, but you know, that's a whole nother like thing that I never thought in my wildest dreams that, you know, you'd be part of all this stuff, you know, based off of just being a kid riding a little quarter pipe in the backyard because I just wanted to see if I could do an air. That's what I like most about my career, to be honest with you, is like I see some people, everybody approaches things their own way, how they want to do things, you know, whatever it is, however you want to get there. For me, everything's really happened organically. Been at the right place, the right time, or my energies pulled me there. Been very blessed and lucky for it. But like I said, man, none of it was ever planned. You know, maybe you get a spark, you do something, and you're like, you know, it was never like I was at Matt Hoffman's game and I called Tony, let me be a bike rider in your game. I didn't ask for that. It happened. And then I was like, whoa, this is cool. Like, wow. But we were such good friends. That game came out in 2005. We were such homies and such good friends that I was just honored, like, to be in his game. Speaking of Tony's, but at the same time, we were such good friends that, like, it was rad, but we were such good homies too, you know? It wasn't like I didn't know him and he called me. Do you know what I mean? Not to say that takes away from the excitement, but, you know, imagine if I never talked to Tony at all and he calls me, I'm like, what the hell? But I'd been friends with him for so long before then that it was just like, it was an honor that he would even consider me to be in his game, you know, and to do all the voiceovers for it. So, yeah, man, it's crazy. It's pretty cool.
And also,
back on, hey, look at this. I'll show you this, dude. This is funny. I haven't signed these ones yet. Well, these are left over, actually. But I'm going to sign these ones, too. But speaking of Tony,
yeah, I saw that on the website, actually. My backdrop's on right now, but right behind me, actually, I actually have the one with Jason Ellis and Tony Hawk. I saw it on the website. It was like $20 to buy one, and I was like, "There's no way Tony's selling his autograph for $20." So when I got it, I held it, and I was like, "This is too fucking rad!" Like,
it is rad. See, I got one. There's another one I have. I don't know if you could see it, but up here, that's the first one we did, and that's me going. You probably can't see it, but that's me going under Tony, and then this was the sequel of me going over him. So yeah, crazy.
So are those going to be available on the website soon? The ones you're signing right now?
No, those no. Check it out, dude. We sold a little over a couple thousand. We had a few thousand made, but it's done. It's still live though. It's still live on I think on Big Cartel, but it's live on Tony's Linktree and stuff if you want to buy one. But I mean, that was a few months ago. They're just sitting on my desk. The ones we have left over that I didn't sign because we had stopped. They're still available, like, but I haven't turned these into the shipper yet because it's slowed way down. So I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna sign all these right now. So, anyways, yeah, crazy. Yeah, man.
But also, as well, in 2009, you actually had the opportunity to portray the character Cupid in Kevin James's hit film, Paul Blart Mall Cop. I was wondering if you could actually tell us a bit more about that opportunity. And of course, what was it like working with Kevin James, man? Because that movie turned into an absolute hit. Like, I mean, when most people think about Kevin James now, they like at least someone says, "Oh, that's Paul Blart."
Yeah, dude, that's a whole nother trip. Okay, check it out, bro. I got this call to go on this audition. Because up until then, okay, this is how I got into films. I interviewed Vin Diesel at X Games, in Philadelphia X Games. He's doing it for a movie called Triple X. He liked me. I wasn't even supposed to be in the film. He put me in the film. Okay, cool. This is amazing. And then after that, I was like, I want to be an actor. I was like, gonna be an actor. I said, yeah, it's different than hosting. So then I went to acting school. Graduated, learned how to act. Then I started doing these movies, did a lot of independent films. That was in the movie Accepted. And the next thing I know, I get an audition to go on Mall Cop. I was like, Mall Cop, what's this? Or maybe Accepted came out after. But anyhow, so I went to an audition and I didn't think anything of it. They said, act like you're taking over the mall with a gun, you know, like you're come on. Yeah. So I did. And then they go, you get a call back. I was like, oh, I'm excited. All right. This is in front of the director and casting and the producer, everybody, and Kevin James. I was like, Kevin James? I don't know, you know, because I didn't know those details of that. So then I go on the second audition, meet Kevin James, do my audition, and the auditions are always weird because you think like, everybody on the ground, come on, get on the ground now, let's go you, right? And then you go, and then you're waiting like, you go, you got the part, or like you don't got the part. And you're like stand there like so vulnerable, like, you like that? And then they go, thank you. We'll stay in touch. And you're like, no, I need to know now. I need to know now. That felt amazing. I know I got the part. I want to know now. And so I got the part. And but I didn't know like that it was about like you know, once I got the part, I didn't know at the time that Vallely was in it, Escamilla, Ellis. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know those guys were actually in it as well. I had no idea. And at the time, I was trying to get rid of like being like the bike cameo guy in movies because, you know, you want to be an actor. I'll play a drug addict, a cop, a war vet, a homeless person, or like whatever. I'll play whatever I look for, whatever would fit for me, whatever in a gang, whatever. I didn't want to play a biker all the time because I thought, well, I'm going to only have like one role my whole life. You know, I want to do this shit. And so we go to the table read and dude, Kevin James is the coolest dude in the world. Oh my gosh. He walks in and he shakes everybody's hands and knew everybody's name. So I was like, because I'm horrible with names. I was just like so impressed. And we sat down and just working with him on that film. I think that was his first film with Happy Madison. And I think he was really trying really hard to make it a hit. And he did, you know, and he was really hands-on when it came to like, you know, producing and helping direct and looking at the shots. And I mean, he was very, you could tell this was his project as far as like his baby, you know, like something that he really wanted it to be good at or to do good. And yeah. And you know, and then next thing I know, before I'm leaving, they go, bring your bike. And I was like, what? I had no idea. I was like, okay. And then we rode and I didn't know we were riding too, which was cool because it was a little bit different than the traditional like bike thing, even though people knew you as a bike guy. And yeah, and I had no idea that it was going to turn out as well as it did. But then again, nobody does, man. You know, like, you know, it's hard to predict those things. I think that they thought it would do okay, but they didn't know that it would become this like, they show the movie so much every Christmas, you know, and I still get royalty checks from that, dude. And they're not bad, you know, for being that old. I mean, I get a royalty check from Triple X. It's like $25 or something. You know what I mean? But since they show that movie a lot and people are into it, you know, naturally You know, it's still something. It's not crazy money, but it's still cool, you know, that you get those residuals. But it's not like none of us really knew. And we got to stay at this old prison in Boston that turned into a hotel. I forgot the name of it. If you look it up, I'm telling you, it's in Boston. It's an old hotel, and it was notoriously known for being like one of the most violent, like horrible prisons back in the day. Like that's why, like, I'm okay. I'm gonna take this somewhere. You're gonna be like, you're out of your mind, Rick. That place is haunted. 100%.
Oh, I believe in that stuff, man. There's some
Okay.
weird shit that happens like this day and age, man. You never really know nowadays.
Well, even back in the day, like if the building's still standing and you were tortured or killed in a building you didn't want to be, and you didn't let go of this life, well, of course you're going to be angry. You're going to be a pissed off ghost. Look, I ride a lot of pools in the hills. I rode a lot through the years. A lot of those houses, they're haunted. And then I started to study ghosts. And I was like, oh, wow, if you can't let go of this life, you hold on to it. It's the Smeagol shit. It's not the movie didn't make it up. That shit's been around forever. People, if you can't let go of this life, then you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay a spirit just stuck in a house. Crazy. So anyways, back to Paul Blart. We stayed there, and I could have swore that place was haunted, man. It was crazy. But it was awesome because we got to do our own stunts. We got to act. We were characters. We got treated really well. The whole crew, Kevin James, Adam Sandler, they were all super nice. Everybody was super professional and very hands-on, and just there's no bad vibes, man. And that's how projects should be. You know, it was you know, not to say that like Triple X wasn't and Accepted and stuff wasn't, but that one just felt a little bit more special because Kevin was really into, I think he was really into wanting to make the film, you know, a classic. You know, this was his first, I'm pretty sure that was his first collaboration where he wrote that and brought that to Adam, maybe. I think that's the case. So,
The one thing I really loved your role in this movie. I remember when it actually did first come out and I first watched it. Like, obviously I grew up with watching the X Games. I grew up watching you on TV. So when I watched the movie, I was like, man, that looks like Rick Thorne. But like you said before, all the other movies you were riding the bike, but this was a different role, but a great role. So I remember being so amped for the end of the movie to be like, I got to see the credits. Because it's back in the day, this was 2009. You couldn't just pull out your phone in the middle of the theater and go, oh, you know, that is Rick Thorne. You know, you really had to wait for the credits.
It wasn't as easy. Yeah. And even that, man, that seems like that flew by like crazy. Like, damn, dude, that's already come and gone, man. Like crazy. You know what's crazy though? I just had this thought. And this is my big thing about everything that I've done that we talked about, is that I never feel like I've made it. And people think that's crazy to say, like, but I never feel like as an artist I've made it. And that's insane to think that if you've accomplished a lot of things, but I think that that's just an artist's kind of like way of thinking of always wanting to be better or reinvent themselves or improve or do something to keep your fire going. Because we're sitting there talking about all this stuff and you're reminding me, I forget about all this stuff. Not because I'm older or I hit my head or none of that bullshit. It's just because I keep moving forward and I don't really like, you know, like a lot of the stuff you see in the back, right, is memorabilia stuff. But I did this backdrop because I do a podcast. And so I just thought it'd be cool to do a backdrop where instead of a plain wall, I could have a bunch of like old stuff hanging on the wall. This looks like a kid's punker room, you know, you hang stuff on the wall or whatever. But I don't really think about stuff like too much, like unless someone brings it up. And I don't know if that's because like I'm not satisfied or because I like feel like I could do better, or you just kind of keep moving, you know? I don't know. Yeah, keep moving, man. Okay, keep moving forward. So, but yeah.
And also, I know we spoke about your acting. We obviously spoke about, you know, your competitions, your bike riding, but you also are the founding member of the amazing band Good Guys in Black. I was wondering what actually made you decide to venture into music, and of course, what actually made you decide to form this band? Because I got to say, you guys are a killer band.
Dude, I got to send you our new song. I think we talked about it on Instagram. I haven't released it yet, so I'm kind of like, because I'm waiting on artwork, and I've just teased it on my Instagram. This new song's probably my best song yet. Listen, I started a band because I'd done so many years of being, like I said, we went from the state fair at the pig races to doing shows like, I remember on MTV, we were doing shows with Wu-Tang Clan. We were riding the ramp where they were performing in front of us, like crazy shit. And so then I started to do more and more stuff with bands, and then then I did the Warped Tour, and I became friends with a lot of bands. And at the time, a lot of those bands saw us on TV. And all those years I was on TV, I never thought about it. So when I meet people, I forgot that I was a TV host. I wasn't even coming off like that. So I was able to meet a lot of people that already knew me and all these bands that were coming up that became successful. And then it was just a dream of mine, dude. Like I got a list of things I made as a kid that I wanted to do a long time ago. And I said, I'm going to start a band. And it kind of started in like Good Guys in Black means like, no matter what you look like on the outside, it's who you are on the inside. I got a lot of grief from the industry, a lot of heartache. This stuff that really bothered me for a long time. But I never had a voice. I never had a voice to like voice how I felt. Like writing was always about, like in writing, it's opened up a lot now. But back in the day, there was like these codes where like people really didn't express themselves outside of like pulling a trick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I did. So I stuck out. So I was the target. Okay, I get it. But I needed a voice. I needed to voice how I felt, not just express how I felt physically with a bike. I wanted to have that freedom to say what I want, dress how I want, sing about what I want, and not be scrutinized for who and what I am because I was so much different in the sport than other people. And what I mean by different was I had a personality that was over the top. And so compared to other people that did not. And so I started that band, man, just because I wanted to like, plus I wanted to rock out, dude. It was a dream. Like, you know, look, I did Warped Tour in Hawaii and Pennywise didn't do the tour. And Pennywise's song Broham became like the Warped Tour anthem. So the Mighty Mighty Boss Stones, I don't know if you know them or not, they started playing Broham. But Dickie didn't know the lyrics and looks at me and goes, do you know the lyrics? I said, yeah, it gives me the mic. And there's like 8,000 kids. So I got to sing Broham before I had a band. And I was like, oh yeah, I would do this. Because even though I was hosting like Tony Hawk tours, 15,000 people hosting, it's different than a band. And that's why I started it. And it's gone through a lot of changes and it's grown a lot of different ways, as music does, as writing does, as finding your style, developing style, taking risk. Not a lot of bands take risk because they don't want to lose fans, you know? But this new song is my best song. And that's why I started it. Good Guys in Black. It wasn't Good Guys Wear Black from Chuck Norris. It wasn't that, but it was Good Guys in Black. It just meant that like everyone's treating me like I'm some bad dude because of the way I look. But the reality is, on the inside, you have no idea. I'm not even what you think I am. You know, and so it kind of meant like it doesn't like judge a book by its cover, and the logo you can see it in the back here. That's real influenced the font from the movie The Warriors, because I took that theme from The Warriors. The Warriors were dudes that didn't do anything wrong. We got pinned. I don't know if you saw the movie or not, but The Warriors.
Oh yeah, well, absolute classic.
Yeah, so they got pinned for being the bad guys, and they weren't. And then they had to make it back home and fight all these people off of them that were hating them for no reason. And those I took my favorite movie and what I wear and put it into one and formed a band in my head, and that's what it means. Kind of like for the more misunderstood in a sense, you know, and that was the stance that it had initially. Yeah, you know. So, and I'm glad I did, dude, because music's amazing. I mean, being able to ride. I mean, I've done events where I've rode and played and hosted. Like being able to play music is such a fulfilling thing, but it's different than bike riding. It's not the same feeling. Not even close. Nothing compares to bike riding. Even like acting, like you'll do a scene, and like the thing about acting is that like it's not even about you, right? Like when you're acting, it's like I'm playing off of you. So I'm like this dude. Like it's not about me. It's about this thing, this characters. And so then after the movie's put out, it's all about you. But when you're making it, it's not all about you. It's about living that moment and being that character. And so, but none of it compares to bike riding. I don't mean that in a mean way or a negative way. I'm just saying the feelings are all different, you know, like riding bikes gives you that sense of like, yeah, you know, I've never interviewed somebody for TV and been like, yeah, right. You know, like, that's cool. Cool. I got another person. That was awesome. That sound okay. All right. You know, cool. But it wasn't like, yeah, you know, not that I, you know what I mean?
But also, well, on November 21st of 2022, man, you actually released the amazing song titled Love Song Gone Wrong, which is honestly one of my favorites. I do got to say, I really do love Plastic Society as well. Got to say, it's a phenomenal record. But when it comes to Love Song Gone Wrong, that's definitely one of my favorite singles you have dropped so far. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about the meaning behind this song. And of course, I know where to stream it, but for the viewers that are watching, where can they actually check it out today if they haven't already done so?
Cool. I'm glad you like that song. And it took me years to release that, by the way. I recorded that song back in like 2015 and I sat on it for a very long time. And I was like, and at the time I just got divorced in 2013 and was still going through like a lot of, or actually, let me see. Yeah, that's about right. About right. And about 2015. And so I was going through a lot, you know, and learning a lot about myself, a lot of things that I needed to change, the reasons why I was in the failed marriages that I was in. You know, it takes two to tango, and that's what that song was, is that like basically it's all I got, whether you like it or not. And at the time, you know, the old me might have been like trying to make you like me a little too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe even with friends and people, and wanting attention too much, and then people pleasing too much. And so then I learned, you know, something that I had to like correct in myself was, you know, to start handling things in a different way. So that song's written not to my ex-wife, but about that situation with her. And it was like just something that I sat on for a while and decided, okay, I'm going to release this now. I don't know why I waited. I just wasn't, I guess you could say I wasn't confident enough yet maybe with it. It wasn't that it wasn't that like it was emotionally hard for me to do, or like I was upset about. I'm not upset, but like I would tear down or something if I heard the song. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I just, you know, I don't know. I just felt like that was the right time, and I'm glad you like it. And I filmed a lot of that video in abandoned houses. DIY, by the way.
I was wondering about that as well. I was actually going to bring that up about kind of like just the aspect of the video, because I was wondering if they were abandoned, but I didn't really know as well. But it's cool that you actually cleared that up for me.
Oh yeah, no, we would ride pools, and then sometimes, you know, I mean, the houses are shit. Majority of them, and those was the ones where I was like, dude, I'm gonna film in here. You know, the one was flooded and shit, and I was like, what? Like, so that was just me going in there solo with the song on my phone, singing to it to a GoPro on a tripod. That's total DIY shit. And so yeah, man. You can listen to that song. The video's on YouTube, and then you could Spotify. You know, all my stuff's on Spotify, or you know, wherever there's some music, Apple Music or whatever, Amazon Music, all that stuff. But yeah, man, I'm glad you like it. And that song was different, you know. And like, and I mean, I really wish that I would have. I gotta, when I got the phone, we got this interview. I'll send you my new song.
Hey, you already know, Rick. If you send it, we hear it out loud. We hear at 99.9 FM is definitely going to spin it, man. You could, when I said Outlaw, that's actually my old station that I used to run, so I literally got mixed up there for a minute.
Oh, that's all good. It's all good. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, but yeah, that was. I'm glad you like that song, because it's a good one. I figured you liked it because you were putting in the promo. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always try my best to promote what's new and current. You know what I mean? Like try my best to actually draw as many ears as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, my phone rang. I just turned it off. What did you say?
Oh, I was just saying that I definitely try my best to make sure I promote all the current stuff that way, so we can draw as many heads and ears as possible.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
And also as well, on May 29th, in just a couple weeks, you will actually be hosting the Memorial Day BMX barbecue over at Redland Skate Park. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about this up and coming event. And of course, where can we actually snag ourselves some tickets to actually come out and show support?
Okay, yeah, so check it out. It's a free event. It's a barbecue at Redland Skate Park. There's some bands playing, some local bands. My buddy puts this event on every year. I hosted it last year. We do like a BMX contest for the Groms, and then we do like a pro class. And it's just a day where people come out and eat some food. It's on Memorial Day, ride their bikes, have a good time, support each other, listen to some live music. It's at the Redlands Skate Park. It's free. There's no tickets. So anybody interested, just come on out. We're going to be there. It starts like around 11 to 3, I think. And it's fun. We did it last year, and it was a great turnout. You know, we had a few hundred people out there, maybe 400 people. A lot of bike riders showed up. So, yeah, anybody interested in coming out? Redlands Skate Park in Redlands, California.
And I have to ask, what is next for yourself, Rick? Because I do know we touched base on a little bit of everything throughout your career, but I do know we missed out a lot as well. But is there anything we missed? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote? What's got you here live on the radio this evening?
I want to talk about comedy. I've been doing stand-up comedy for 5 years, and I got involved with comedy before COVID. Just trying to another thing on my list, to checklist, is to accomplish in my life. You know, if people chip out on me, man, they say you do a lot of stuff, but it's like, also, dude, I don't have a relationship. I'm single. I've been single for over a decade. And that allows me to do a lot of things that I want to do. To be quite honest with you, I don't have the responsibility of, you know, and the time to be in a relationship. I choose that though, because I'm trying to pursue all my dreams before this journey's over. You know what I mean? Not that I think I'm dying anytime soon. I'm just saying, I'm being real with you. But I wanted to become a comic, which is another goal of mine, to express myself, to challenge myself. And I'll tell you this much: doing stand-up comedy makes music better, makes this interview better, makes the way I engage with people better, makes everything better, because I'm able to look you in the face, talk to you. When you get on stage with a band, yeah, you're singing, but I still have musicians that I could talk to, like not talk to, but vibe with, or turn around to the drummer, you know what I mean? Or there's still this thing. Bike riding, you got your helmet on, it's you know, you're not hiding behind your helmet, but kind of are. Right? It's got this instrument, your bike. Like, yeah. When you do comedy, it's just you, man. Nothing. And since I got into comedy, I've done shows with Bill Burr, Donnell Rollins, Tiffany Haddish, Nick Swartzen. I got some, dude, it's amazing. I put together my own comedy jam out at Redlands. I did for a while. And then I have my own comedy show at the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset. And then I started to work with, you know, Dean Delray, Joe Sib, bigger comics, Sam Tripoli, and them knowing me from all the other stuff I've done. And then now getting into comedy and learning how to do comedy and going to the open mics and getting in the trenches and working your way up, man. And it's like, and that's what I say to people. If there's something, people ask me all the time, how did you start that? You just start. You just do it. People tell me all the time, I say I do comedy. They go, I want to do that, man. I always want to do that. And I go do it. Look up an open mic, the comedybureau.com or whatever it is. See where the open mics are in your area, and just go. That's the only way you're going to do it. It's like, and it goes back to riding bikes, dude. The only way I'm going to do that trick is if I try it. It ain't going to bring itself to life, right? Like, if it doesn't work, then you figure it out. It's the same with comedy. And so, yeah, dude, it's doing good. I got a show coming up at the Bourbon Room in Hollywood in the next couple of weeks. And I'm booking a lot of local shows. And my goal is to eventually tour with comedy, because my kids are going to go off to college, and I'm going to be here, you know, going, well, what am I doing with my life? And I, you know, since I took a big break from touring to raise them, if I'm not touring music or writing, I'll tour comedy, or I'll tour all of it at once. You know, so comedy is a really big part of my life right now. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. So.
And also, Rick, before we actually part ways this evening, man, I have to ask, because obviously I know how to follow you on social media and stay updated on all this stuff. But for the people that actually aren't that social media savvy, how do they go about following the legendary Rick Thorne on social media all across the board?
It's my name on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's just at Rick Thorne with an E, THORNE, and then my website, rickthorne.tv. But I'm mostly on Instagram. It's hard to be on all of it. You know, Instagram, if you post, it'll post to Twitter and Facebook. So it's like you get 3 in 1 there. You know, it's just a lot easier. than logging in and out of every friggin' thing to promote everywhere. But Instagram's my main thing. That's where you see what I'm up to mostly. So yeah.
And I'm going to say first and foremost, Rick, before we actually part ways this evening, thank you so much, man, for just giving not only myself but the radio station airwaves an hour and 5 minutes of your time, man. It was such an honor to speak with you. Like I told you, man, I've been a huge fan for honestly so many years, man. So just being able to virtually interview and speak with the legend himself in the flesh, man, is such an honor, bro.
Thank you. Listen, we're going to shoot a photo right now. Hold on, let me get this. Ready?
Yeah.
Screenshot this. Hold on. I'm going to screenshot. You ready? I want you to smile big. Hold on. Smile big. 1, 2, 3. Ah. There.
Yeah.
I'm going to send that to my sponsors. That's something about me, bro. People don't realize that you got to update your sponsors and what you're doing. Otherwise, they're not going to stick around. Little advice to you new jacks out there.
And I got to say, you got the advice, Rick, because you've been with Monster for literally since the beginning of Monster. You're literally the very first person. So that right there, you definitely know what you're doing when it comes to sponsorships, because clearly you're still with them and you're one of the very first. So
yeah, they're great. They're a great company. They're amazing. Yeah, I'm very grateful, and thanks a lot for this interview. I appreciate you. No problem, dude. And anyone out there, stay rad. Don't give up on your dreams. And you know, life, you know, it's not meant to be easy. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Just no, what I'm saying is just stick to your dreams, follow your path. You're gonna hit these bumps and these, you gotta just keep going and don't give up if you really want to do it. That's all I'm saying. And stay rad, because I always say stay rad. That's my deal. Stay rad.
Hey, man, thank you so much again, Rick. We definitely shall talk again soon, man. But for now, definitely have yourself a killer night.
Thanks. You too, bro. Take care. Thank you.
Take care.
Later.